Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes, and this is a daily brief. Today is Friday, March 1st, and I want to show you in the numbers what has happened. Yesterday, we talked about the 3 military jets that were taken down, and that was a very big day. The Ukrainians took 920 Russians off the battlefield, killed or wounded. But the numbers tell a story somewhere else. I want you to look at tanks, plus 17. Remember, replacement value is 3. Armored vehicles, plus 30. Artillery, 36. Vehicles and fuel tanks, 54. And special equipment 10. So that 54 number is really intriguing to me to go with the armored vehicles and the artillery pieces. So there's a great deal of movement on the battlefield. And we know that. We know that the Russians are pursuing or trying to take ground past Avdiivka and push inland some. Okay, let's look at something else. Defense forces destroy all 4 Shahed-type UAVs attacking Ukraine. Only 4? Now, I'm not complaining about that, but only 4 tells me either they're running low or they're saving up for a massive hit like they did a few months ago. And I'm afraid it's going to be more of the latter than the former. Okay. Putin is proving his ambitions don't stop in Ukraine. Well, we knew that, and this isn't anything that we haven't been aware of, but the timing was really interesting. The day before Vladimir Putin's long yearly address to Parliament Thursday, politicians from Transnistria, a pro-Kremlin breakaway region of Moldova, asked the Russian president to protect it against Moldova's increasing pressure. Same song, second verse, same thing happened in Ukraine. Now, he didn't say anything here. That was interesting. Let's go to the ISW. The ISW talked about exactly this. Putin did not respond to the February 28th request from Congress, deputies from a pro-Russian Moldovan breakaway region in Transnistria, but this lack of response still affords the Kremlin several possible courses of action at a later time. Now, a little bit more from the ISW. Ukraine officials reportedly are concerned about the possibility of significant Russian territorial gains in the summer of 2024. In the event of continued delays in Western security assistance, and it's just coming way too slow, so they have to do something about it, and you'll see what they're trying to do with it. Russian President Vladimir Putin used that February 29th address to the Federal Assembly to attempt to convince Russian public that his next term as president will be defined by, wait for it, Russian military successes in Ukraine. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't it supposed to be a special military operation? Nothing to see here. You can't call it a war or you're going to jail. But now he's talking about how there's going to be these tremendous victories. In fact, calling his Russian servicemen the elite, even though they're not. So he's using that in order to bolster the image of the military. It's kind of like at Walmart, they call their employees associates, but they're really just, minimum wage employees. That's not, calling them associates doesn't mean their status is actually elevated. Okay, so what are we talking about when we're looking at the map? I moved it back, and I did this a couple days ago, but it's worth seeing again. This is 2 weeks worth of fighting in Ukraine. It's now March 1st. This is February 15th. And if you look at the map, Avdiivka falls. And then after Avdiivka falls, you still see continued movement. But this movement that you're seeing now is kind of across farm fields. There's nothing really standing in the way. And so that's why they're taking that territory. Avdiivka was a city with lots of things in the way that they could use to defend themselves. They're going to keep pushing as far as they can until they hit lines. Okay. Balkan leaders pledged to supply Ukraine with ammunition, Zelensky says. So they have to get artillery. They're really short on artillery, and if they had the artillery, they could have stood and fought in Avdiivka. Meetings with Western Balkan leaders at the summit will help Ukrainian troops get more of the artillery shells that they badly need. Zelensky said his forces will receive more artillery shells under the new defense agreements he reached during the 2-day summit hosted by Albania. That's got to be maddening to be Zelensky and have to be constantly trying to raise funds and ammunition for the troops. Here's the intelligence update from the British military. Russian defense industry has significantly increased its production output in 2023. This was achieved by expanding the workforce to roughly 3.5 million people, increasing shift patterns and expanding existing production lines, coupled with bringing idle production capacity back into service. Now, you can only go so far with that existing production capacity, but they've seemed to do a good job getting it up and running. A significant proportion of this increased output comes from refurbishment and modernization of existing stocks rather than new production. For example, the vast majority of main battle tanks produced in 2023 consisted of refurbished vehicles. Okay, but still, they got them onto the battlefield. Artillery munition production rose sharply in 2023, and it will likely increase further in 2024. However, munition production is likely to peak in the next 12 months due to capacity constraints. So that leaves Russia with being either limiting their artillery usage or having to outsource, like the Ukrainians are doing, going to some foreign country, Africa somewhere, and buying back munitions that they had sold them previously. Although the defense industry is unable to fully meet its demands of Russian operations against Ukraine, it's almost certainly capable of delivering a material advantage over Ukraine throughout 2024. And that's why Zelensky is doing what he's trying to do here in this Balkan summit, trying to gain more ammunition because what's going on with America. Okay. In the meantime, Ukraine drones hit a major Russian arms production hub, so this is another way of countering that. Now, this was in a place called Nizhny Novgorod Dzerzhinsk. I don't know, I probably slaughtered that, but so I'm not familiar with it, but I looked it up, and yes, there are other articles like New Voice of Ukraine talking about explosions rang out in Russians in this area of the country. Now, where is it? We see it on Telegram, and we see like some images of what happened with it, so a boom off in the distance or things like that, and you even see where it is. It's about 800 kilometers from the border of Ukraine. It's an arms producing factory, and take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because I didn't see it from like the usual suspects that I can, that have been very reliable in the past. So just take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, it looks like that's something that they actually were able to accomplish. In other news, Anton Gershchenko is reporting Russian Telegram channels report that a line to the farewell ceremony for Alexei Navalny is about 1 kilometer long. The hearse hasn't arrived yet. Reportedly, the cemetery where Navalny has been buried is closed today. There's a lot of police in the area. So yeah, people are coming out in droves to his funeral. Okay, crowd chants, Putin is a murderer. So I don't speak Russian, but I'm taking his word for it. That's pretty gutsy for them to be doing that, to be shouting and chanting that, when certainly there are plainclothes police mixed into that crowd. Okay, let's keep going. A police station near St. Petersburg, Russia, does its part to resist being part of the Putin regime. Partisan may well have helped the police station to take this bold step. I don't know what happened here in this police station. Could have been a careless cigarette. Truthfully, could have been a careless cigarette. Odds are that it's some kind of action against the government borne out with a Molotov cocktail or some equivalent. We don't exactly know. Okay, finally, I want to leave you with this, and this is a picture that when you see it, you'll see it. I saw this picture and I thought, oh, that's interesting. What is that? And then as I scrolled down and I saw that, I said, oh, wow. And when it hits you, it'll hit you. There's been some hard fighting in Ukraine, and that's just, wow. That's a lot of casings. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.